Today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Answers. We all know I'm in a somewhat constant quest for them. It's my job to battle it out in internet forums to find the truth for you. I find the Reddit post with one like. I go back to archived internet forums from 12 years ago. I read the data books. I get the leaks as soon as they come out. All in the pursuit of one thing and one thing alone. Answers. Because that's what you do when you have a master's degree in biotechnology, but your full-time job is to talk about anime. You use all those research habits you picked up over the course of $300,000 and you apply it to your current position. And therefore, when we come to a crossroads where the answer hasn't yet been found and there's not enough information to truly formulate what would be considered a good hypothesis, that's kind of where I do my best work. See, truly, me at the peak of my abilities is taking small bits of information from all corners of the internet and bringing those together to make a cohesive theory that you might like. And today, I might have accomplished just that. See, one of the biggest questions revolving around the Naruto universe currently is, what's going on with the Rasengan Uzuhiko? See, when it comes to new abilities introduced in Naruto, we usually get a pretty good explanation as to how they're created and what they do. Chidori was created when Kakashi tried to add lightning release to a Rasengan, but it collapsed the shape transformation of the Rasengan and just enveloped his hand with lightning release. The Rasengan was created when Minato tried to create a jutsu for Kushina that would allow her to battle against tailed beast bombs if she was ever sent to the front lines. And while we definitely don't have an answer for how every single jutsu was made, as incredibly complicated and powerful jutsus like Flying Rasengan still have no explanation whatsoever. That's because Flying Rasengan isn't used by our main characters. However, if a technique is used by our main characters, we always get some semblance of an explanation. However, that really hasn't been the case with Rasengan Uzuhiko. And while that could absolutely be because it was introduced like 2 months ago, it was introduced in a somewhat odd capacity. See, when one of our main characters, Sasuke, is going to learn the Chidori, we get to learn the origin story of the Chidori. And the same could be said for the Rasengan. Well, both of these jutsus existed before our main characters picked them up. When our main characters picked them up, we got an explanation. And while one can make the argument that we've been given an explanation for how Rasengan Uzuhiko works, quite honestly, I would have preferred no explanation as opposed to the one that we got, as the explanation for the Rasengan Uzuhiko that we got is so clouded in mystery that it presents more questions than answers. And thus, ever since Boruto decided to surround himself in some swirly chakra, people like me have been scrambling to crack the code behind this complex jutsu. And while a couple of prevailing theories have arisen, I believe today that I've stumbled upon a third and quite possibly stronger theory than the other two that we have. That is to say that today, I believe I've cracked the code of the Rasengan Uzuhiko. And it all has to do with Shukaku, which I know sounds absolutely ridiculous, but stick with me till the end of the video and you might believe in this theory as much as I do. But before we get to cracking the code on anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you want to see me crack other codes on some of your other favorite anime, guys, go ahead and follow my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime. Or if you guys simply want to hear me talk about anime, go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Who Talk is Anonymous, where me and Daddy Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Or if you guys want to help me keep this little one fed, meander into my merch store, talkusanonymous.net, where you can pick up some of the greatest anime t-shirts, sweatshirts, and sticker packs known to man. But before we get into all that, guys, today we gotta talk about our favorite reoccurring sponsor to the page, Raid Shadow Legends. Let's be real, guys. Summer is long gone and fall is in full swing. It's time to bust out those blankets, pour yourself a hot chocolate, and really get snuggled in for the next couple of months. There's no better game, be it mobile or otherwise, to do that with than with Raid Shadow Legends. See, Raid Shadow Legends not only has some of the best graphics you'll see in video games, but definitely the best graphics you're gonna see on a mobile game. It has incredible boss fights and deep tactical battles that truly stretch your ability as a tactician. On top of that, Raid Shadow Legends has hundreds of champions for you to try, including a whole new classification of champions known as mythical champions, with my personal favorite being Siegfried the Nephilim. This mythical order mage doesn't only look incredible, but also has all the buffs and debuffs that your team would ever need. But Raid is taking it one step further this holiday season, as they're currently giving away the legendary champion Sun Wukong. Yes, that's right, the Monkey King himself. And it's not often that Raid gives away champions this good. Sun Wukong can steal buffs from enemies before attacking them. His Staff of Wonder attack ignores 50% of an opponent's defense stats, and he has a passive ability that allows him to fully revive. The Sun Wukong that you receive for free in Raid is almost as legendary as the Sun Wukong from the Journey to the West, a monkey blessed with 74 earthly transformations, capable of somersaulting 54,000 kilometers. One of the strongest characters to exist in fiction, yours for free. But that's not all that's going on in Raid, as iconic 90s warrior Xena Warrior Princess is joining the fold, with abilities that, much like Sun Wukong, allow her to ignore the defenses of her opponents. And she can be yours through the brand new Champion Pass feature, which, like with the Forge Pass, comes with a basic and elite version, with Xena being a guaranteed pull if you complete the elite version of the pass. You can also summon Xena from Ancient or Sacred Shards during special boosts every week between November 10th and January 19th of 2024. So what are you waiting for? It's time to get into Raid and go summon Xena, and a special thank you to Universal for licensing her. So click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get insane bonuses only available by using my link. And one of those bonuses that you can acquire is 2 free epic champions, one Lightsworn and the other Juliana. And after downloading the game with my link, use code MONKEYKING to get Sun Wukong a free legendary champion. But this code is only available within 72 hours of registering, so be quick. So hit the link in my description, get 3 free champions, and see me on the battlefield. So the Rasengan Uzuhiko, the move burning through the entirety of the Naruto community as we speak. See, while many of us believed that Boruto's signature move was going to be his vanishing Rasengan, it appears that he's got a bit more up his sleeve than just the vanishing Rasengan. See, Boruto has now managed to reinvent what a Rasengan means twice. The first way that Boruto managed to reinvent the Rasengan was obviously his first signature move. By applying lightning release to a Rasengan, Boruto was able to not only throw it, but also make sure that after he throws it, it would disappear. But the vanishing Rasengan was more of a nuisance than a kill move, and thus Boruto had to find a way to increase his offensive ability, which is where his second signature ability seems to come into play. As with the reveal of Rasengan Uzuhiko, it was also revealed how Rasengan Uzuhiko works, and that is that Boruto is able to surround himself with the rotation of the earth, and therefore anybody he comes into contact with will also have this energy of the rotation of the earth transferred onto them. And this transferal can happen through any means of physical contact, whether it be you attacking Boruto or him attacking you. So long as you come into contact with Boruto, it's time to get the spins. On top of the defensive aspects of Rasengan Uzuhiko, there also appears to be an offensive aspect of Rasengan Uzuhiko, which seems to operate kind of just like a Rasengan, as Boruto is able to take the rotational energy around him and transfer it into his hand, at which point he's able to strike you with this rotational energy like it's just the standard Rasengan. And therefore, while the offensive capabilities, the Rasengan Uzuhiko, aren't all that impressive, the defensive capabilities definitely are. And yet, while we're able to deduce how the Rasengan Uzuhiko works, we've never really been given the answer of why it works, outside of some kind of half-baked lines about how Boruto is using the rotation of the planet that the Otsutskis want to destroy so bad to battle back against them. And that's fine, but that's kind of like us seeing the first ever Great Fireball technique used by an Uchiha, and the answer being as to how they use it just being, oh, we use the burning passion of our hearts to create a fireball. Like, sure, it's technically an answer, but wow, is it not a good one. And what's worse than that is, on top of not having an answer, the answer we were given seemed kind of shady, as every single time that Boruto refers to the rotation of the earth, rotation is in quotation marks. And while this might be Boruto saying that he's not actually using the rotation of the earth, which would make sense because how would he do that, it raises the incredibly logical question, okay then, what are you using? Not to mention that Boruto also claims that this ability is powered by the Earth's chakra. And while the Earth having chakra is not a new concept, that's what Senjutsu is based off. Senjutsu and nature chakra have never once been referred to as the Earth's chakra. And thus it has brought people to ask the incredibly logical question, why did Boruto say it like that? Which really leads us to one of two answers. Either the Earth's chakra is something entirely new, or Boruto just doesn't know the word for nature chakra, which kind of maddeningly are both equal possibilities. But based off of this very little information that we have, two prevailing theories have arisen to answer the question of what is the Rasengan Uzuhiko, and maybe more importantly, how did Boruto learn it? And I've talked pretty extensively about both of those theories on this page, but we'll go over what they were quickly. The first and probably most prevalent theory is that somehow Boruto tapped into his Hyuga blood to add add the rotation of the Hyuga clan to the Rasengan. Now, this would either be by Sasuke telling Boruto all about his Hyuga blood and the possible battles that he had against Neji and the rotation that he used, with a long story short being that Sasuke acts as a liaison to Boruto's Hyuga connection through the information that he has about the Hyuga clan, and therefore, since Sasuke has a Sharingan and can copy the physical abilities and jutsus of others to a certain degree, is able to tell Boruto all about the Hyuga clan's abilities and how best to possibly use them or add them to his own current existing jutsus. He's slipping. Now, it's not entirely necessary that Sasuke would tell Boruto about this in the first place, as Boruto did grow up under Hinata and did grow up in the Hyuga family. And while Boruto himself has never manifested a Byakugan, that doesn't mean that he isn't trained in some of the abilities of the Hyuga. And even if Boruto hasn't explicitly trained in Gentle Fist, he would still be aware of things like rotation. And therefore, it's a possibility that Boruto during the time skip figured out how to apply rotation to the rotation of a Rasengan, making it both defensive and offensive, kind of like the Hyuga rotation, but improved. The second possibility is that Boruto during the time skip came into contact with Kashin Koji, and this is fairly likely when you consider the fact that Boruto not only has toads, but also ran out of teachers 1 year into the time skip, and therefore for the last 2 years of the time skip, Boruto needed a new sensei. And Boruto in those 2 years that he spent with Kashin Koji not only became acquainted with the toads, but also was possibly trained in some semblance of a sage mode. And as to whether or not Boruto became a sage or not a sage, he would still become acquainted with the concept of nature energy, or the world's chakra. And therefore, it's a possibility by training under Kashin Koji, he would learn how to tap into the chakra around him. And while the concept of adding nature chakra to a Rasengan is not new, it's a possibility because Kashin Koji himself wasn't trained by the toads, at least more likely than not, he wasn't trained by the toads, and instead Kashin Koji was just born a perfect toad sage, that any semblance of toad sage mode that Kashin Koji would be able to teach Boruto would probably be vastly different than what Naruto learned from the toads at Mount Mubuko, which could possibly explain why Boruto's Senjutsu boosted Rasengan looks nothing like Naruto's. So as it currently exists, those are the two possible theories. Either it comes from the Hyugas or it comes from some semblance of a sage mode. However, the theory we're going to be talking about today explores a different possible origin story, an origin story that has nothing to do with the Hyuga or Kashin Koji, and instead has more to do with Boruto's father and Shukaku. See, in one of the first videos I ever made on this page, well, at least after I stopped being a surfing vlogger, I talked about the possibility of Boruto becoming a Jinchuriki, specifically a Jinchuriki to Shukaku. Now, the reason that I made this video is because Boruto was running into some issues, i.e. every single time Boruto ran out of chakra, Momoshiki would take over his body, and therefore I asked the question, why don't we seal one of the friendly-tailed beasts inside of Boruto? And therefore we never have to run the risk of Boruto running out of chakra. See, if Boruto was a Jinchuriki, every time he ran out of chakra, a friendly-tailed beast could simply lend them some of their own. In that way, Momoshiki is never able to take over an empty vessel. Now, unfortunately, that theory got shot out of the sky all but immediately, as pretty much as soon as I released that video, it was revealed that we're gonna use Byakugan suppressing pills to make sure that Momoshiki's powers are suppressed so that he can't take over Boruto's body. And thus the ideal of sealing away a tailed beast like Shukaku inside of Boruto was kind of dead in the water. But the reason that I thought this was a good idea to begin with is because there's an anime canon arc in which the new Team 7 goes to save Shukaku from the hidden sand, as Urashiki is going around with his fishing rod trying to collect all of the tailed beasts. And it's decided at this point that Shukaku would be safest closest to Naruto, the strongest human being on Earth. So the new Team 7 goes to collect Shukaku. They put him in a teapot, they put him on a train, they try to get him back to the hidden leaf. And they do. And therefore, at least within the anime canon, Shukaku currently lives in a teapot in the Naruto household. In the Uzumaki household. And that's kind of the last thing we hear about Shukaku. Like, there's never a reference that, oh, hey, one of the 9 strongest entities on Earth is currently alive in Naruto's house. And therefore, I believe that either Boruto or Himawari having a possible connection to Shukaku would make a lot of sense. Especially in the case of Himawari, who had a connection to Shukaku and isn't currently the vessel for anything. However, that theory is completely dead in the water. As now, not only does Boruto not have access to his old house, but also narratively, it just wouldn't make sense for Boruto to be a Jinchuriki. It would just be odd. The rest of Boruto is going to focus on Boruto and Kawaki's ability to try and use their karma marking better than the other, and maybe some light Jogan stuff sprinkled in there. The idea of Boruto being like, all right, now it's time to transform into Shukaku would just not feel right. Him using the abilities of Shukaku would be the most effective abilities in terms of battling against a karma marking, as Shukaku is the only tailed beast made of a physical thing, as all other tailed beasts are made out of chakra, but Shukaku is literal sand, and therefore most of Shukaku's abilities are just him launching sand. And since it's real physical sand and not sand generated by chakra, it wouldn't be able to be absorbed by a karma marking. But once again, not gonna happen, so don't worry about it. But the reason that I bring up Shukaku now is not to try to revive an old theory that was just kind of incorrect, but instead to adapt that theory into something that may actually be correct. See, the connection between Boruto and Shukaku isn't that Boruto is gonna become his Jinchuriki, but instead that Boruto would somehow tangentially acquire magnet release from Shukaku. What do I mean? Well, it's kind of a long road, so let's walk down it together. Let's first go over what magnet release could possibly have to do with the Rasengan Uzuhiko, and then we'll go over the possibility of how Boruto might have acquired magnet release in the first place. See, the reason this connection was made in the first place is because Rasengan Uzuhiko operates weirdly similarly to a magnet release Rasengan. That is to say that after the Rasengan Uzuhiko comes into contact with somebody, the Rasengan begins to leak onto them and seal them in a capacity, which is exactly how the magnet release Rasengan works. See, the magnet release Rasengan works by putting the curse marks of magnet release on a Rasengan, and therefore, instead of smashing this Rasengan into somebody, Naruto usually just touches somebody with it, which transfers the curse marks that appear all over Shukaku's body onto whoever he's touching with the Rasengan, which then confers the sealing ability of magnet release to the person being touched by the Rasengan, which is how Naruto was able to seal Madara's limbo club. And magnet release has always been known for its Fu and Jutsu ability. This is why Gaara's Grand Sand Mausoleum is made stronger through the application of these curse marks, as that all ties back into magnet release. However, the Rasengan Uzuhiko doesn't seal like the magnet release Rasengan. Instead, the Rasengan Uzuhiko disorients, and there actually might be a reason for this. See, a genuine magnet release Rasengan is no different from something like a wind release Rasengan. It's just the application of either a Kekkei Genkai or a nature release to a Rasengan, and therefore the Rasengan just acts as a medium to apply that elemental release or the Kekkei Genkai to somebody else. But the Rasengan Uzuhiko isn't necessarily an application of magnet release, at least not on the scale of a magnet release Rasengan. See, because while a magnet release Rasengan is just that, the Rasengan Uzuhiko may be tapping in to the magnetic field of the Earth. See, as some of you may or may not know, I'm really hoping may, the Earth has a magnetic field that's centered in both our north and south poles. Now, this magnetic field surrounds the Earth, and it actually protects the Earth from harmful radiation from the sun. Now, this magnetic field is created and manipulated by the Earth's molten iron core, as iron is highly magnetic, and therefore it's the motion and current of Earth's molten iron core that makes the magnetic field work, and what allows us to be protected from solar flares from the sun. I mean that and the ozone and other planets. So what if instead of tapping into the Earth's rotation, Boruto was instead tapping into the Earth's magnetic field? And believe it or not, this actually explains a lot. See, I never necessarily understood how tapping into the Earth's rotation would make somebody dizzy. I mean, there's the possibility that it would make you feel the Earth's rotation, but even then you're only heading one direction, and you're still heading at the speed of the Earth's rotation. But everything that we saw from Code after he was affected by the Rasengan Uzuhiko made it appear as though he was getting the spins, like full 360 spins. I mean, Boruto is straight up upside down, which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense if you think about how an Earth rotates. However, if we consider the fact that instead of tapping into the Earth's rotation, Boruto is tapping into the Earth's electromagnetic field, that disorientation actually kind of makes sense. See, something that you're a little bit less likely to know is that the Earth's electromagnetic field is also what allows us to use compasses, as positive currents flow from one side of the Earth and negative currents flow from another, and therefore the charged needles that we use in compasses will always point towards a certain pole. And therefore, if Boruto is truly tapping into the electromagnetic field that surrounds the Earth, there's a possibility that when he comes into contact with somebody, he's able to disrupt their electromagnetic field, making their own electromagnetic field act like a compass in a lightning storm. That is to say, it forces their body into a state of not knowing which way is which. And when you consider the fact that there is a precedent for jutsus like this existing, like Tsunade's body pathway derangement jutsu, that has her surrounding herself with lightning chakra that she can then use to disrupt somebody's nervous system, causing their nervous system to send signals to the wrong parts of their body and therefore moving the wrong parts of their body when they're trying to move another part of their body. And when you consider the fact that Boruto is an incredibly talented lightning release user, who was the first person to ever be able to apply lightning release to a Rasengan successfully, when people like Naruto, Kakashi, and Minato all try, the possibility of Boruto tapping into the electromagnetic field of the entire Earth Isn't that crazy?
But Nick, how would that have anything to do with the Earth's rotation?
Well, I'd like to circle back to the fact that every single time that Boruto says rotation, it's in quotes. See, because maybe we're focusing too literally on the idea of the Earth's rotation, and maybe those quotation marks are a hint. Because while the outer crust of the Earth absolutely does rotate, so does the molten core inside of Earth, but it rotates independently of the outside of Earth. In fact, the rotation rate of the Earth's molten core can slow down or completely switch its rotation. In fact, recent studies show that the Earth's molten core slows down 1% every 100 years. So really all that means is that days would either get a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. And by a little bit, I mean like literal milliseconds. So maybe instead of referring to the outer crust mantle of the Earth rotating, Boruto is referring to the molten core of the Earth. And considering the fact that the molten core of the Earth could very much be viewed as the lifeblood of Earth, and that the magnetic field surrounding Earth really wouldn't have anything to do with Senjutsu chakra, this could explain why Boruto says he's using the Earth's chakra instead of existing lingo like nature chakra, as the molten core of the Earth runs through the Earth much like chakra running through a human. And when you take all of this into consideration, this theory actually makes more sense to me than the other two prevailing current theories, as really I can see no way that Boruto would be able to add rotation into his Rasengan without being with any of the Hyugas. And if Boruto did learn any semblance of Sage Mode, he probably would use the term nature chakra. I mean, obviously him having toads does give some credence to the idea that he possibly learned Sage Mode, but still. Okay, so now that we've established the possible connection between the Rasengan Uzuhiko and the Earth's molten core, what does any of this have to do with Shukaku, or magnet release? Well, Shukaku doesn't necessarily have to be the answer for how Boruto ends up with magnet release. It's just Shukaku happens to be the most likely answer. See, Shukaku has now twice bestowed upon two separate people the ability to use magnet release. Well, sort of. See, obviously Naruto was the Jinchuriki of all nine-tailed beasts for a little while, and every single one of those nine-tailed beasts gave Naruto their Kekkei Genkai, and Naruto still has the ability to use all those Kekkei Genkai. Magnet release still very much included. Now, the reason that Naruto can still use all these Kekkei Genkai is because all the tailed beasts like Naruto, and therefore they allow him to use their Kekkei Genkai. And the other person that Shukaku was given magnet release to is Gaara, as the reason that Gaara is able to control sand is actually because of Shukaku. This isn't technically magnet release, this is just Shukaku granting Gaara control over sand, as sand isn't magnetic. And since Shukaku likes Gaara, he continues to grant him this ability even though he's no longer his tailed beast. However, the situation here is similar for both Naruto and Gaara. At one point, they were the Jinchuriki of Shukaku, something that we've already established Boruto will never be. However, Boruto doesn't necessarily have to be the Jinchuriki of Shukaku, as he's the child of a Jinchuriki of Shukaku, and therefore there's a possibility that Boruto inherited magnet release from his father, who very much has it. And considering the fact that Kekkei Genkai are bloodline specific, as every single member of the Kazekage family inherits a magnet release of some sort, Naruto having magnet release gives his children a fair chance at having magnet release. Now, unfortunately, Gaara never had a biological child, so we can't know for sure as to whether or not Shukaku's gifts get passed down through bloodlines. But the thing is, we currently live in an era of Naruto where you don't even need to come from the bloodline that has the Kekkei Genkai to get the Kekkei Genkai. I mean, Sasuke has ice release, Moegi has wood release, and Sasuke is not from Haku's clan, and Moegi is not a Senju. But the reason that Sasuke and Moegi have those Kekkei Genkai is because they have yin-yang release. And if you have yin-yang release, you can combine two elemental releases to make a somewhat weakened version of a Kekkei Genkai, which is why Sasuke's ice release isn't as strong as Haku's and Moegi's isn't as strong as Hashirama's. However, Sasuke and Moegi aren't the only wielders of yin-yang release. In fact, there's a couple of people. But maybe most importantly, at least as it pertains to this video, Naruto is a yin-yang wielder. So once again, even if Shukaku's gifts don't get passed down, there's a fair shake that Boruto, who was not only the child of a yin-yang wielder, but was also trained by one during the time skip, as Sasuke was also a yin-yang wielder, but that Boruto, now that the time skip is over, has also become a yin-yang wielder. And therefore, Boruto, as easily as anybody else, would be able to combine two elemental releases and make magnet release, which is how the Rasengan Uzuhiko gets its leeching ability, and how it's able to tap into not only the electromagnetic field of the Earth, but also individuals' electromagnetic fields. And all of it comes from the Earth's rotation, or the Earth's chakra, which acts actually refers to the Earth's molten core, which not only taps into Boruto and Sasuke's lightning release affinity, but also Kashin Koji and Sasuke's fire affinity, leaving us with one hell of an explanation as to where Rasengan Uzuhiko came from. But what do you guys think? Of the 3 theories that currently exist, which do you believe to be the most likely? Or is there another one that you believe to be more likely than these 3? Tell me in the comments below, and while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I just know the actual explanation isn't going to be nearly as cool as any of these 3 theories, and I'm going to want to put my head through my monitor, but you know, cross that bridge when we get to it.